And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Sorry about the delayed start. One, it was raining pretty decently when I got home today, and with the way the storm was looking, I was afraid to try and jump on here because I've been known to knock the power out and the internet out. So I'm hoping that we're just down to the steady, basic rain and not the hard rumble, shake the whole house thunders that were going on. Hey, Timor, welcome on in. How are you doing today, sir? I hope you're doing well. Um, yeah, so we have made a tremendous amount of progress on our 3D printer. Let me get a couple things out of the way here. So for those of you that don't know, we have been working on a project with our ZeroG Mercury 1, and the plan originally was to build the Nebula frame, which is the newly released full frame for the ZeroG Mercury 1, which is a Ender 5 mod, right? So early on, a few years back, I had taken an Ender 5 Plus and converted it to the ZeroG Mercury 1, which is the Core XY gantry system for the gantry motion, right? And then I went a step further and installed the Hydra, which takes the standard Ender 5 bed system, yeets that, and puts in a triple lead screw system with kinematic mounts that allow the bed to be, to go cattywampus and then come back to a level plane. Welcome on in, Eagle. And all's well on the Western Front. That's good, Timor. That's good. Work was good. We're doing good today. And so the plan was to build the Nebula frame, which I have built one before. I did one under beta test with Dutch Dude and Turtle Crawler and the ZeroG team. And when I built that one, I wasn't able to show how the frame was built. I built the frame and then we built everything in it. And that is my smaller size, like Ender 5 Pro size, ZeroG Mercury 1. Well, now what we're doing is we built the Nebula frame for the big Ender 5 Plus size. And the plan was to take all the parts from point A and move them to point B. And then Turtle Crawler sent me information on his all-metal CNC gantry mod, replacing the majority of the printed parts on the XY gantry. I'm like, fine, I'll do that. Oh wait, there's a 9mm belt option. Okay, well we're going to go 9mm belt because why not? And everything snowballed from there. So now we've basically got a full printer build, and the only thing I've taken out of the other chassis has been the three Z motors, lead screws, couplers, and the 100mm linear rails that go on the bed yokes. The bed itself, and that's it. I think I'm also going to eat the camera. I'll have to reprint the parts, but I have one of these cameras, which is a IR camera, so you can run it at night without a light on and still see what the prints are doing. So I had this running on the old one, and I've got one running on the smaller ZeroG Mercury 1. It works wonders. So this I'm going to pull off and keep as well. Other than that, this is basically a brand new printer. So Mercury Rising, which is the original printer, is going to live life with somebody else, and we've got our new printer back here. And when I say we've got our new printer back here, I literally mean we've got our new printer back here, and it's been sitting on the ground, and I've been sitting on the ground working on this because the dimensions of the printer are too wide to sit comfortably on my workbench and safely on my workbench. So this has been the best place to put it for right now, and I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I bought a lot of extrusions from Open Builds when they were going out of sale, and I'm probably going to create a little table out of extrusions. You know, I've got 2080, 2040, some 4040 extrusions. I can use the 4040 for legs, 2080, make the top, drop a panel in on it, and make it sturdy enough that we can do a printer build if we do a big printer like this again. And if not, that's something I can move around with it as well. But where we're at right now and where we finished up, let me see. Let's do one thing real fast, which is this particular mount. This is for the USB adapter, right? It takes the USB data signal, 24 volt, and turns it into the 6-pin cable that goes up to the orbital to tool headboard. It has these little wings here designed to be able to mount it on your 2020 extrusion. That doesn't go well with my build, so what I did was I basically popped it into the slicer, and this side I did really well. There's no line whatsoever. On this side you can still see the faintest edge where I didn't get the wing completely off, but I just did support blockers on the side and reprinted it. So I'm going to move this board over to this, which will give me something that can sit fully down in the den rail, and I'll just VHB tape this in the den rail. So it's just a matter of grabbing my driver, unscrewing it, and moving it over. Three foot by 4 foot by 3/4 inch plywood for a temp workstation. Yeah, maybe. But once again, it also becomes, now I'm holding everything up at this level, a little over waist level, and trying to manhandle it around. If I have a smaller table, which is why I got this bench. This is all what we've got 40/40 and 30/30. Actually, no, this is all what is this? No, this is all 40/40 extrusion from Rat Rig. It is a designed workbench by Rat Rig, and it works perfectly fine for that printer, and I'm able to move things around and stuff. So there is something with this print, because I even made this print bigger, like, you know, scaled it up, and this board is just tight in this print. And I worry I'm going to snap that board. So I may wind up reprinting this again and making it just even larger, but for now I'm just going to get that screw down in there to hold it from jumping around. But you can see there what I mean as far as maybe that board not sitting in there right. I mean, we actually got it to sit nicer in the old one, but I need to get those wings off to make it easier to mount in the printer on the den rails. It's kind of annoying. Can I relieve the sides of this a little bit with file. But yeah, I do need to do something, Timor, just to give myself a place for some of the larger projects. Yeah, it's going to take quite a bit more than just that. Yeah, maybe we'll hold off on doing that piece right now. We're good, but I'll show you where we're at, because what I can do is, as soon as the print that's on there is done, I can get a file sliced and reprint that real fast. Let me switch the view so you're not looking right at my gut while I do this real fast. And now I got to find that file again. Okay, so it brought that in. It did not do the did not bring in the blockers, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that, I'm going to scale it, and I think I'm just going to go to 102. That should be fine. We need to still put in our support blockers. And all I'm doing are not support blockers, but I'm just adding a negative cube. Then just kind of go in and do the best I can to line it up right on the edge of the print to cut that wing off fully. Nice plate. Send it. That way, when that print's done and it cools off, we can pull that off. What that is printing right now is something I thought I had up here. I must have taken it down back downstairs with the other files. It's a Wago mount that will mount onto our rear center yoke here. Excuse me, I'm talking about something that you can't see. It's a triple two was it 412 221 or whatever. It's the two wire Wagos, and it'll mount over here on this yoke right here, and that will let me do the quick disconnect for the bed wires. Okay, so once that's done, let me go ahead and grab 3 2-pin Wagos out of here. We're going to have to cut our bed wires down and all that goodness, but this will allow us to add a quick disconnect for that big bed and make it easier to work on. So this is a quality of life thing. make our maintenance lives easier. And also, since these are right there, I'm going to grab these. These are my pack of heat sinks, so we can put heat sinks on the on our CB2 module. And you're going to see me get down here on the floor, and I'll do that. We've got a couple of wires kind of dangling here. This is going to be the power, and so the load and the neutral. So the neutral is coming from our Wago power blocks over here with the mains, which you can just barely not see. So we've got our mains block right here. So this blue wire here is the neutral coming out. We've got our brown and our ground in this row that comes around the bottom and up over here to provide load and ground for our SSR. And then the other brown wire comes out of here. It's going to go in here, come around and join with the blue wire, and it's going to loop around, come up here, up through our cable chain, up to our Wagos. So that's kind of what we're going to do. And as we get a couple of things print-wise done, we will add that to it. I guess we can do that later. I'm going to flip this over, and I really want to show you the wiring for this printer. I did post it on X, but the wiring, I think, is turning out so incredibly good on this printer. So once again, I'm going to bring this down and around. So I will have to cut some zip ties and re-zip tie it with the additional wires in it. And also, I just realized I'm going to have to run a ground wire up to the bed. And so we'll run, we'll kind of just loosely figure out the wire, and we'll run it longer than these because it'll have to go up and do a direct mount on the bed itself. Right? I don't like breaking the wire to the bed if I don't have to. That's just me personally. But let me turn this a little bit like this, and I'll tilt it up and show you, hopefully, what our wiring looks like. So once again, our main power is coming in here. Our wires come down, and the comes down here, and the neutral and ground goes directly here. The load, or the brown wire, comes all the way to the front to a switch. From the switch back into our block. And then all of the power, the next two, comes into our two power supplies on this side, which makes all of this our mains side. And this side will be our DC side. Our, let me see. So this is Z0, comes all the way down, around the corner, and into motor 3. Our Z1 motor comes out, loops around, and goes into 4. And then our Z2 motor comes around like this and goes into 5. 6 is left open. 7 is used for the right rear gantry motor, and motor 1 is used for the other side. This might actually need to go to 8. I'll have to double check my config, but I think it was in 7. We'll have our USB. This is going to come underneath the board, connect into our adapter board, and it'll get mounted on the DIN rail right here. So we're going to kind of keep this out of sight underneath the board. And then our 24 volt power is coming in like that. I will zip tie these together just to kind of keep the wires a little tame. And the whole point of this is most of the wiring is up underneath the edge and is going to be out of view. Because remember, the bottom deck panel here, or the bottom panel, is the black acrylic. The top deck panel is clear, so you'll be able to see all the electronics. Okay. I do know that I'm going to add UV reactive lights to the top. So there's going to be UV reactive lights coming from the top down. And I may add some type of lighting around the inner edge just to cause this to glow as well. Because once again, the majority of the parts that are going to be seen, like the mounts that are up underneath, are black, but the majority of the parts that are going to be seen on this are the neon magenta colors. So they'll pop under UV blacklight. Hey, Petty Ruxpin, how's it going? Oh, and for those of you that are I'll say watching, counting, however we want to call this, I don't have coffee today, but I got the next best thing. Black Rifle energy drink. So Black Rifle is the coffee that I tend to drink if I'm not getting Dunkin'. And so yeah, we're just dealing with an energy drink now. And this is the Freedom Punch. They've got 4 flavors, so. No affiliate code yet. Maybe. We'll get one after we chat with them some. We're going to need, once again, our ground cable. So we'll have to go ahead and grab our yellow wire here. And I'm just going to string some out. So we're basically going to be coming from here around the edge. And we're just going to follow our other wires. And I'm going to need it to be longer because we're going to have to go directly to the bed itself with a round one of these round connectors that we can screw on and make sure that we get a really good connection on there. So that is probably good enough. If I really wanted to, I could do even more like that. And that way, when I cut off the end to length, whatever's left over is not so small that I just have to chuck it. I can use it for something else down the road. Every once in a while, it's worth it to really draw it out some so that you have a good excess amount rather than like a small 2-inch, 3-inch section that really doesn't help. So what I'm going to do is run this down, kind of bring it around in the same manner. Put it through there. And I really want to flip this back over and terminate this first. And then I'll just set it on its side. And then that way we can start working on cutting and redoing our zip ties around, because it's going to come up right over here. And then we will words on stream are hard sometimes. Once we get this in place, we will just keep going. Like I said, everything is pretty much in place to the point where we're ready to mount the bed. As you all know, I like to wait until as close to the end as possible to mount the bed, just because like this particular bed adds about 10 pounds on a 6mm thick Mike 6 build plate. Get that down the Wago, do the little tug check, make sure that it kind of just flows well with the existing wiring that's in there. And then we'll pull this back up. And once again, we're just going to methodically go through. We'll clip a couple of these. We'll add new ones into the zip tie and just work our way down and around the corner. And that's the nice thing with zip ties. I mean, they're easy enough to clip and snip and redo. Just be careful that you're not hitting your wire when you do this. And these Trident zip tie mounts actually are really good. They're almost like built in. So we're trying to keep the wires in this part right here, which means at the side you can come in and snip right across that hollow where the zip tie is going in. And you don't even have to cut the zip tie all the way. You get it most of the way and it'll pop from the tension that you have on the zip tie. So howdy, howdy, it just keeps going. Yep, it does. And the good news is this build is getting close to done. We are getting close to done, believe it or not. I know it's been a while. We're on stream number 10 for this build, but we have made good progress. And you know, we've troubleshot the things that we changed, and I think this is really good because as soon as we decided to go with a couple of additional changes, it made perfect sense that we just go full Monty on a brand new build for this. And I say that because the way that if I had tried to take the original config and just, you know, use that as the baseline, we would have had to have gone through and done so many changes that it would have just been frustrating. So at this point, we're just going to consider this a brand new build. Yes, we took and copied and pasted over most of the config because it is the same MCU, but we basically went through, well, I'll say I went through off stream and yeeted everything out of the config that related to the EBB 36 board that was in the other one. And so now it only references the Nighthawk, and that really cleaned up the config a lot. I've got most of the beacon config done because, of course, I haven't had it connected up, so we still have to, you know, do a little bit on the software side to, you know, identify the USB IDs for the boards and stuff like that. But all in all, if we get everything physically mounted tonight, we should be ready to like start doing the initial commissioning tests and, you know, figuring out, you know, does she move under her own power type thing. And you know, I think I'm going to route this. How am I wanting to route this? Yeah, we'll route that up and over like that. Making sure that we're leaving enough slack so it gets around the corner, because once again, the whole purpose is not to show as much of this wiring as possible. So everything stays clean without having to do, you know, one of the cable troughs and having all of that mess. So wiring 3D printers is not necessarily that hard. Making wiring look good is. And a lot of times it's just taking your time, going slow, and not being afraid to, cut and redo some zip ties here and there. But once you do a really good wiring job, it kind of almost makes you want to go back and redo the wiring on every single printer. Like there's a couple of printers I'm going to take down this weekend to Ecovate for the buy sell trade event. And there's a part of me that's like, no, this needs to be completely rewired. And it is taking all I can, do to not get into that. And even doing small little things like doing a couple of zip ties here and grabbing our signal wire for our SSR and just tucking it up underneath so it's not all that visible. We can take our wire here for the antenna and literally mount it up underneath here, and just in the way it flows, it's going to blend in with the other wires there. And I mean, these do have sticky tabs on them, so we can just sticky that down right there. Or if we really wanted to, just take some, electrical tape and go right over the ends if we don't want to physically attach it down to this in case we want to change it up down the road. Just small, simple things like that really polishes up wiring. Okay, so we have this there. And the one thing I want to look at is which way the cable chain goes through here. Does it go on this inside edge or the outside edge? Because this is a little bit different with the part there. It's going to go up on the outside edge of our metal part. Yep. Okay. So this will lay down there like that. Lay down. Sure. We'll clean up our tails on our zip ties. Now we are going to have the thermistor wire that comes down, so I may have to redo a few of these once we get the thermistor wire on there. And I just thought about that, so bad on me, but hey, like I said, zip ties are cheap and having to redo them time and time again, oh well. We're also going to have our 2 umbilical cables, but I think that'll be the last thing that we install. And I will have to figure out how to route those cables because they're going to be long most likely, and I'm not going to want to cut those and repin them, right? Those are over-molded and pre-molded on the one side, and I want to keep those long for, reuse in a future printer down the way. Okay. So I'm going to lay this down like this because we are going to have to put some parts here. You'll notice I do have a large vertical part right here. This is going to be the umbilical wire that's coming up. So we'll have 3 good points of zip tie right here on the 2 USB cables that are going to go to the tool head. And that's all that's going to the tool head is the 3 USB cables. And then we would have, of course, our PTFE tube. But if I remember right, I did a PTFE through the back, I think, on the other one. So we'll probably do the same thing for this. We're around 50. So we'll go ahead and mount these. These are going to be M3, most likely by 8 or 10 with M3 Rollin T-nuts. And we're just going to kind of space it out down here. And that's just going to give us a tie point to keep that nice and tidy right behind that this vertical upright so it's not seen. Once again, giving us a nice, really clean finished look. So how's everybody doing this evening? I hope people are in places where they're able to stay dry, because God knows it keeps raining on and off here. So I'm just looking at what screws I have here in the package and which ones I'm going to leave out and which ones I'm going to toss back in here for keeping them out of the way. M3 by 14 socket head cap screws. Just going to dump these in with the rest of mine so that they're less things up here. These are button heads, M3 by 8 button heads. That would be for the whatchamacallit, the panels. So we'll go ahead and get these rolled in. And like I said, the location of these for right now don't matter. We're just getting them roughly into position. Like I said, most likely M3 by 8 will work on these. Shove one through there. Maybe. Yes. M3 by 8 will work perfectly on these. And once again, we'll figure out spacing here in a second, but each one of these have 2 points for one here and one here for zip ties. So this will be really good to hold our wires, keep our wires from flopping around. And once again, this is for our umbilical wires, not the bed wiring. The bed wiring will go through a cable chain. And this will hold our 2 umbilicals, or our 2 USB cables going up to our umbilical. Hey, Shrimp Father, how's it going? Hey, Chewy, how's it going? Welcome in, welcome in. We're kind of, I'll say, putting the makeup on right now, right? We've got some little accent pieces here that are going to run down and hold our umbilical cables that will run up here through this top piece and then go over to our tool head. We'll have 2 cables, one to the tool head, one to the beacon probe. We've got the wires, the 3 of the wires that are going to go up to the mount on our rear yoke here for our bed. Those are run. And I'm going to pull this off. Clear off the purge strip there. And get the other print started, which will take about a half hour. So by the time we get ready for that, or we'll need that, it should be done. So once again, a simple little print will hold 3 Wagos and 2 screws that'll hold it onto the side of this truck here. And that will let us do the embedded thermistor, or the embedded thermistor. Wow, Luke. It'll let us add the thermal fuse, which I don't think I had set up on this before. And of course, we'll add the ground in. So this is our existing bed setup. Now there is a thermal fuse in this pad, and that's probably why I didn't do it to this one the last time. But this does not have a ground, right? We've got our, the one going to, this would be obviously the one going to the SSR, then this one would have went to the Wago, and then we've got an extension for the thermistor wiring. What I'm going to do is cut this black cover off and bring it kind of almost all the way back up here, and that'll free up my wires, and we're going to do the Wago mount underneath, regardless of whether or not I add in the additional thermal fuse or not. And that's also going to free these wires up for me to actually route decently as we get down the road here. And as you do this, just be mindful of where your wires are. The last thing you want to do is accidentally snip through a wire. Yeah, see that thermistor wire is riding up there, so. We don't need to take it all the way back because we do have that, this RTV sealant right here. I'll take this back a little bit more, and then I'll just kind of cut my way around all the way around it, and that will allow me to peel this off and leave just a little bit of the, hell, we'll just do it like this. Just do like that. We'll toss this sleeving away. Like I said, this frees up our wires so that we can run it down into the cable chain all the way down and through. And of course, these 2 wires are going to get terminated into the terminal block that we're going to add. And the thermistor is going to go all the way through our cable chain. And there's our terminal block. I am going to hit these holes real fast with a reamer just to make sure that they are nice and open, not tight on the threads of the M3 screws that will go through it. Uh-oh, we got a Jedi Spidey in here. Subscribe for 12 months. That is awesome, Jedi Spidey. That is awesome. Looking forward to seeing you down there this weekend. And this does have a spot here for a cable tie as well, so that we can, you know, strain relief on them cables. Just wipe the memory on the 2K1 Max printers. Nice. Yeah, I need to go through and make final decision of what all I'm bringing and, you know, reset the Pi password and stuff like that on them. Reset the Pi password and clear the Wi-Fi stuff. And once again, we're just going to take our Wagos and they should slide in here. They should be a little snug in there, but push them all the way down and make sure that the front edge drops down under that lip. And that'll be fully secured down in there. So take your Wagos, make sure you got it oriented right. Kind of push it down at an angle. And make sure you get it pushed all the way in there. And then push it down to make sure that front edge is under that ledge. Sometimes it's kind of a pain in the butt. It's in there. Yep. And Spidey, they do have something down there that you may be interested in. You'll have to talk with Beverly if you are interested in it. The you know, the NDA printer that they have there. If you want to do any type of social media call outs for it and get your hands on it to play around with it, you'll have to do the NDA thing. But that's definitely a doable thing. I think she'll be doing a call out to all content creators who come out this weekend. All right, so there's that. I believe the M3x8s are going to work just fine on this as well. Yep. So we'll get those ready. And there are 3 holes here, and this is going to be a hard yeah, I don't trust my camera to sit here and play nicely, but let's see if I can get it to try to. Sorry about the jumping around. Sit, stay. Give me 1 second to grab the camera controls and I will fix that view. Uh-oh, Raiders! Raiders! Hey, Bearded Printer, rating with a party of 21. Hey, hey, hey. How's it going, friend? How's it going? You see if I can't bring you guys down here a little bit. There we go. Hope you guys are doing good. Hey, Maker Viking, welcome in. Jedi Spidey, there you are. Pez Liz. Oz, how's it going? How you doing tonight, Pez Liz? Career Icebox, how's it going? Welcome in, welcome in. Does the camera get a treat? You know, the camera may get a treat later on if it stays nice to me. You working on another 5-minute build? Yeah, 5 minutes to frustration maybe. So I'm going to try and, which way am I going? I need to go that way. Yeah, maybe. What the heck? Come to the forward. Come into the light. Let me turn that camera off. And now that I've got you there, can I pull you down a little bit more? Sure I can. And get the edge of the table, because why would my camera work with me here? And I'm just, yeah. Okay. Pull this back. There we go. That's probably what I needed to do. All right, so along this truck right here, we had the 3 holes, and we're going to go ahead and line this up with the forwardmost and rearmost hole. If you wanted to do just the 2 Wagos instead of the 3, you would do the first and the middle. We're just going to screw this in. Make it snug. Like so. And once again, our 3 wires that we're bringing up to the bed, the mains, power, the neutral, and the ground, are going to go on the outside edge of the rear motor mount down here, which is out of the frame. Awesome. And we're going to have to route that into cable chain. So can I bring this down even more? Starting to get some of the desk there. Or actually not the desk, we're getting its own base there. So yeah, we've got some cable chain here. And the big thing is going to be to figure out how much of the cable chain we need to use. Looks like it should take 2 minutes max. Yeah, so Bob, there's a story on this build. So it was literally, we're building the new frame, this nice shiny gray frame. And we're going to lift and shift all the parts from the old chassis into this frame. And then Turtle Crawler tells me about the sorry, I'm having a thought process here. Turtle Crawler tells me about the 9mm all metal gantry mod that he came up with. And I was like, well, that's awesome. Crap. Right? So now I'm getting the all metal gantry parts here. And I reached out to West 3D and got Kraken motors. Right? So we now have all metal gantry, so we basically didn't need any of the gantry. I was thinking about taking the tool head apart and moving it, and I was like, now we'll just put a whole new tool head on it, right? I've got some things that, I've got a new tool that I can, hot end that I can use, hence why it's got blue tape all over it, because I can't show that hot end yet. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. That'll work great. And then, yeah, it just blossomed out of there. The linear rails that were on the other one were black because it was a black frame, and they looked like an eyesore over here, so we went and bought all new linear rails. Then he tells me about the CNC motor mounts for the Z, so I go get those, and at the same time we get the SLM printed aluminum bed yokes. So yeah, pretty much the only thing on this printer that moved from the other one are the 3 Z motors, the 3 Z motor couplers, the 3 Z motor lead screws, the 3 100mm Z yoke pieces here in the carriages. Yeah, that's it. Everything else on this is new build. So this is definitely new printer. And yeah, no, I'm not just going to let the wires hang and send it. I am going to try and figure out real fast, though, what my guesstimate about what my height should be on these. We'll come around to about that one, maybe. I'd rather have one too many. Oh, actually, no, that's fine. I'll go ahead and pop that off. And sure that looks about right. Pop the end off. And we'll put the end on here after we get the wires run through. I have learned over time that mount your ends and then use your cable chain, be able to open your cable chain fully and lay your wires in and then just clip your ends in, and it works out so much nicer. So you pop both ends off and then you'll go through and route your cables through your cable chain, especially when your cable chain opens up. Oh, for the love of Pete. There we go. So this should be the one that goes at the top, and this is going to be some flathead screws. And I only have 3 of them in here, so I will grab, yeah, those are the flatheads. These don't need to be long at all, so we'll grab some M3x6. And that looks about right. Oh yeah, that'll work perfectly. Now the question is how many of the black M3x6 screws do I have? So I have 6 of them. I think I do. And I do. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and install the ends, and then we'll run our wires through and terminate our wires. Okay. And it goes not on the floor. So we did tap all of these holes for M3 threads, so this should thread right in. And I know some people don't go and put all 3 screws in. I normally do. This is a low load environment, so I don't need to go through and do things like Loctite and stuff like that we did on all the other stuff. So that one's there. The other one, We're going to come in from the outside and basically we'll put the last link on here backwards. Or not backwards, but yeah, this is in essence going to be backwards. Folks, I'm sorry because being down here and working on the floor like this, it does put me with my back to the chat. So please bear with me. So we might have to go with 2 on this because this particular hole does not feel like it's threaded all the way through. Of course, it's right at the bend spot, so kind of afraid of shearing the head off. You can do it. I mean, cross-threading is the poor man's Loctite, right? Ow! Folks, we are getting so close to done on this. Yeah, I'm getting kind of giddy. Top Sandy. Okay. Getting kind of giddy. All we need to do now is lay our wiring in. And that will include needing to also do the thermistor wiring from the top down. But we'll do that as we get there. I hope everyone's having a good night. And once again, thank you for the raid, Bearded Printer. Bearded Printer, what were you all working on tonight on your stream? What were you working on tonight? And I am kind of surprised. I'm going to kind of look over here to see if somebody's been lurking and just being quiet. No, he hasn't. Surprised. I figured Maker Millwright would have been popping in by now. Working on a model to do a raffle at 3D Printopia. Well, awesome. That is awesome, good sir. So, I've got our chain all open, and because I'm going to have to feed these wires up and in and then bring other wires down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay these in here, and I'm going to close a few of these, but not all of them. Maybe every third one, just to give it some structure, but that'll also let me bring my other wires in when I have to bring them from the top down. Now, the wiring that I am putting in here is multi-strand silicone wiring. And before some of you like cringe, right? Because we know that silicone wiring is not necessarily the best wiring to run in cable chains. This is not like a standard cable chain that's going to be bouncing through a lot of motion and quick, quick direction changes and stuff, right? This is a Z-axis. It kind of just goes up kind of slowly. So this should give us the ability to do our wiring without any major issues. Okay. So I'm just going to go through here, take a look at this, make sure that I've pulled the slack up. Should be a little bit more slack there. Okay. And what I'll be able to do is bring these out, lay them in there so we can do our, we can either just do our thermistor or I can just go without it because once again, this bed does have a thermistor in it. It's one of the things with the Honeybadger kits. So we don't technically need to add that external thermistor, but we'll have the ability and provision to quickly add it if we want to, or if for whatever reason we ever pop the built-in thermistor, rather than say, oops, now we're just, S out of water. All we need to do is go through and wire in another thermistor. Been a fairly decent day, can't complain. Tomorrow is inventory day too. There you go, Chewy. Well, it was a decent day today. Had a couple of meetings, nothing really major, and then, tomorrow's Friday. Just finished putting drywall in the pantry. That sounds so fun, zombie. All right, what are we doing? We got that wire there. Oh, I was going to strip that wire and get it into the Wagos. Where's my wire strippers? I'll strip these two wires, get them into the Wagos, and then once again, we will have the ability to add in the secondary fuse, the ceramic fuse, but it's not 100% needed with this bed because the Honeybadger bed, like I said, has the built-in fuse in it. That's there. And like I said, I don't want to close this up all the way just yet because we need to bring in the thermistor from the bed up here. And we're to the point now where we actually get to install and mount the bed. So to do that, we've got our aluminum standoff. Oh, I'm sitting here. Our aluminum standoffs. And we're going to need to set these in place and then set our bed with the screws right over the top of these standoffs. So this is normally where it becomes a little bit of fun. To get all these lined up and down in there without knocking them over 4, 5, 6 times. So what I'm going to do is just lay the wiring in there, hold it over to the side, and I am not in the best position to do this. I'm going to need to try and drop these down onto the trucks one at a time. Okay. So I think we're sort of there. And what I'm going to try and do is get the right size driver and get these started down into the castle balls. Okay, that one's down in there. Does it look like I've got different size? That one's down. That one's not lined up. Okay. There we go. Bed's now installed. We'll need to route our thermistor wire through here, and then we can cut our bed wires and make that the correct length. But now with the bed installed, we can lay this over and it's not going to go anywhere. And that will give us the ability to work like right in this area. Once again, this is very long. I cut it very long so that I can run the ground to the bed, and then whatever's left, it's long enough that it's useful for something instead of just a small tiny scrap that we get to throw away because it doesn't really work for anything else. Our thermistor wire here, we need to get routed up and around. And this, once again, is why we did like every third, we closed every third spot, is just to make it easier to route this through and pull the cable through. And if we need to, we can undo just the one and pull it through. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I was hoping it was going to be a quiet day, but I've got several very important meetings. So which doesn't mean that it's not going to be a quiet day or a good day. It just means it's going to be not necessarily hectic, but you know, we'll have some fun and some meetings to get through. And then once we get through the first couple of meetings, then the day should get a little bit easier. Okay, where are you getting stuck at now? You're getting stuck there because we're working our way around and under and over the other wires. That's the part. Oh, I hate that. That's the part I hate with running wires in spots like this, is it kind of goes wherever it wants to go instead of where you want it to go. All right. We'll bring the printer over here like this, which will hopefully make it a little bit easier for me to get in here and work stuff through and around the cable chain. So this is going to pretty much finish things up underneath the printer. And we'll be left with, where are we at here? We'll be left with basically the umbilicals. So that'll be pretty good. Like I said, we're getting real close to being done. Done. So that's nice. Once we get our umbilical done, we'll be able to fire this up and start doing some testing and, you know, start the commissioning process, first movement, all that good jazz. So really looking forward to that. And like I said, I am aware that I'm putting silicone wire in a cable chain, which is not the best. I believe the desire would be to put grease on the silicone, because silicone's kind of a little bit of a stickier material and it will wear in the cable chain quicker. But this is a Z-axis. There's really not a lot of movement, and definitely not a lot of quick movement going on. So I'm thinking we should be fine. I can always go back and change it. This side end. There we go. That'll go underneath. That's there. We'll need to cut these to an appropriate length and get them in there, and then we can zip tie these wires together. And then we'll also need to do our ground, which we can go into one side or the other for that lug. Hey, the knees, they are cracking. Hey, Hutch Makerspace, how's it going? Ooh. Hey, Spidey, do you think I should take this printer down with me on Saturday? I'm doing good. We're making really, really good progress here. I need to get these stripped back and inserted in the Wagos, and then we'll be ready to getting close. I still need to do one more wire, and then we can flip this back up on its side, do the final wire for the thermistor routing, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We are literally in the home stretch. Literally and figuratively in the home stretch here. We've already gone through and done most of our configuration, so we don't have a lot of configuration work to do. We'll have to verify a couple of things, but not a lot. So yeah, I'm kind of starting to get excited here. Cut that there. And my desire on this one would be a, like I was saying, a round connector, but I don't think I have one. So we'll have to technically I do, because I can always use that third Wago spot that I'm not using for now and screw that directly in, and then go down and do the ground in the other Wago spot there. So that is an option. Is that an M3 or I think that's an M3. Yep, that is an M3. All right, give me a second here, folks. Because I think in my infinite wisdom, I made the decision that I was just going to throw away the other smaller ones that I had, smaller length grounds that I had. Man, oh man. We're going to route this down there. Bada bing, bada boom. That would work. Though I think I've got to do an M3 washer underneath this to spread out the connection load. So that 6 should be plenty, because it's a 6 mil deep bed. Yeah, see, I think these tooth connectors here are actually better for a 5 mil bolt than a 3 mil bolt, and these are both 3 mil holes. So that sucks. So we are going to go ahead and re-terminate, or Yeah, we're going to put a connector on the end. We walk around and go grab them. The downside is I don't think I have any of the smaller, like red connectors with the. Oh, well, that should work. Yeah, I don't have a round red connector, but I do have a blue connector with a smaller hole size. So that should still work. That'll work. There's enough length here that I can just cut that end off with that connector. Reuse that. I mean, what do you guys think? Should I do a Wago for the ground, or should I do direct connect for the ground? All right, sounds good, Jedi Spidey. What do you all think? Should I do a direct connect ground all the way back to the grounding Wago block, or should I jump it between the Wagos to make it easier to take the bed off? Yes, no, no comment? Which way will you thank yourself later? Well, I mean, that's the thing, because you don't have to take the ground wire per se out of the cable chain. You just have to unscrew it from the bottom of the bed. You pull the two Wagos for the bed power. So I guess it'd be easier just to flip 3 Wagos down. So we'll do the connector on a short pigtail into the other Wago, and then take the long ground wire into the Wago. We'll be fine that way. We'll do it that way. And we're going and making a short pigtail. We don't really need anything long compared to, based on where we're going to. So this should work fine. I am going to use a M6 screw with a washer because there is a little bit of play there and I want to get a good squish down on this. Come on. The other thing that gives me is a little bit more space because once again I'm dealing with I think this is a 8mm thick plate, M6 screw, plus now the distance of 2 washers, but you see how that's not tight? That is, oh, no, you can't see it, but I'm turning this around. It's not fully tight yet. So this needs to get tight, and if I can't get it tight, then I need to go and grab like an M3x4 screw. All right, there we are. We're tight. That'll give us our connection. Yeah. So now we'll strip that in, drop that in the Wago, and we'll be good. That's there. We'll increase the stripped area on this one because we need, calls for, I think it's 11 millimeters of free wire to get down in there and make sure you get the good connection. Because if you have the insulation in the way, it could keep it from levering down on the wire. So come around that way. Get in there. Work with me, darn it. And as always, give a little tug on that wire, make sure it's fully seated. And like I said, we can put a little zip tie right there to hold everything together. And we are going to flip her back up after I cut a zip tie or two. She's going to get real heavy now because of that extra build plate, or the weight of the build plate now. Yep, there we go. We'll flip her upright, or not upright, but onto her head. And all of our other wires are going right down in there nicely. This is going to be our extension for our thermistor because our thermistor only goes that far. This is a little plug-in extension from the actual Ender 5 itself that you cannot see. So let me relocate you back up here. And we'll fix the not that way. No, yes, that way. Okay, so once again, our thermistor wire only makes it down to right here, so we are going to have to run the extension. What I'm going to do is I will route this extension or this wire through there, and I'll probably include it in this zip tie right here so that it's well supported. We'll bring it down through there and we'll flip this over and we'll cut this wire to length. And this little pigtail, we'll cut that to length and keep everything nice and tidy. Let me see about cutting this without any wires. That's good. So I've been working pretty hard at trying to keep the wires out of view as much as possible. And where I need to bring them over, I make them as short as run as possible because once again, this is all going to be visible and it will be you know, on display, so to speak. So we want to try and keep things nice and tidy as much as possible. This will be our USB wire for our umbilical. The USB going up for the, oh darn it. Apparently I sliced that in black and not the other one, but that's fine. Provided the darn board fits in it now, you should be fine. I think we're ready to flip this back over and sit it up on its side, or on its, maybe we'll put it on its back. We'll see. Basically I need to get to the control board. Either way, you're not going to really be able to see it now because of the bed, but she's looking like a printer. She is looking like a printer. Goes over there and out of the way. Let me see if this is going to fit in here any better. There we go. That's the fit. That is the fit. And I didn't even put a heat insert in there, but that is kind of not going anywhere. That's a good press fit down in there. And I think I'm just going to leave it like that. We'll put VHB tape here on the bottom and VHB tape that to the DIN rail. And then we'll be able to do the rest of our connections from there. We're going to need that. We're going to cut wires shorter. We'll pull that stuff out later. So this, we're going to mount on the DIN rail. Where are we at? The back side here. Okay. We've got our USB wire coming in underneath the board, like this way. We're going to plug that in. Route this underneath the power wires coming in. And we'll mount this with that VHB tape right on the DIN rail itself. And that will make that nice and neat. As I now fight to get VHB tape off, or the oh, for Pete's sake. Why is it always such a pain to get this stuff off? I'll do it one day and it all comes off real easy, and then other days it's like, nope, I don't want to play. And yeah, it's the small details. And like I said, I notice that as I do more and more builds, my attention to the details and especially things like wiring, gets better. And then it makes me want to go back and redo some of my older builds to try and make them look nicer. And the bugaboo, for one, like I've been sitting here going, man, I really need to redo the bugaboo build, because I know the printed parts could be so much better. And at the same time, I'm like, but it prints well. Why mess with it? You know? And that's kind of the hardest thing, is leave it alone. Don't mess with it. You know? It's fine. Oh, darn you. Do this one here. And then when we plug in our 6-wire, we'll go ahead and do another zip tie back here to hold everything nice and neat. And I could probably add another zip tie back here just to kind of make it look nice and neat. But I mean, that's, oh no, we've got to do the thermistor for the bed. So we need to cut that to length and pin that out. And then all of that wiring's done. All we'll need to do, and wow, that's, did I put that? Ain't that great? This entire cable chain needs to get turned apparently 180, because I'm a idiot. Now that's how cable chains work, right? The quote-unquote flat sides are on the inside. This just doesn't have anything holding it to keep it from doing that. So how does that work? You turn that around, it's not going to go there. I'm confused now, because I remember on like a gantry for 2.4, it would have a thing right here that would keep that from going out like that. Look at the other one. Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure that out. Cable chain's the least of my worries right now, right? Or should be. Crimp and repin the lower connector loop. That's all you should need to do. Darn it. So we're going to sit back down on the floor. We're going to try and figure out about what the distance would be. We'll pull that wire over onto this side where we can work on it a little bit easier. We'll cut, we'll strip, and we will do that connector. And once again, this is a thermistor, so it doesn't need to have polarity. Needs some slack. And we'll cut this about there. I'll save that for a rainy day. Like I said, we'll need to terminate these with JSTs. And once again, folks, sorry when I'm sitting down here, it makes it hard for me to read chat if you guys are popping in, but yep, it's definitely the small details though. I hope it was a nice comment you left, Pete. Alrighty. Crimpers. We've got our connectors. Got our tiny wires. Oh, and Pete, I am sorry to hear about all the issues you're having with your Prusa XL. Seems like you've got people where it just works beautifully like a charm, and then there's people that just have, problems after problems after problems with them. And I'm really not hearing much about people that are just right there in that sweet spot that are getting decent prints and just having to chase a thing or two here or there. It's like it either works like a dream or it's been a nightmare. And it just sucks that you're having to go through that. And so once again, on our Manta M8P board, we'll have our thermistor for the heated bed. We have the trigger for our heat bed SSR coming off of HE1. And then on TH2 and TH3, which would be the like third and fourth heater pins or extruder heaters, we're using those set for PT1000s to track the motor temperatures, because we do have two black wires coming into each motor. That is a PT1000 in those motors. We're running our two stepper motors here off of 5160Ts that are getting fed 48 volts. And then our 3Z motors are TMC 2209s, and those are pulling 24 volt straight off of the power going into the board. We're not bringing power into the board for the bed, therefore we can't use the bed out to trigger the SSR. That's why we're using a one of the hot end heaters to do that. We are pulling 24 volt to the board and 24 volt around to our USB adapter for the Orbital tool board. The Orbital tool board, we got that all wired up, and now really what we need to do is, yeah, plumb our umbilicals for the beacon and for the Orbital tool head. And neither one of those will be, I'll say, cut or trimmed to length, because I just don't want to go through and repin those. So we'll just keep those at the same length that they are, and fix those up as, you know, wrap them around, hide them as best we can. So the way Printed Solid showed on, I think it was a Connect Creator video, is they basically have a station set up for each printer type, and you will sit down and hand assemble a printer from start to finish using just like basically an entire kit. And so it's basically like me sitting here and just ripping through a kit. And I'll tell you, like, I did my Core 1 and it was 13 hours. I could only imagine what an XL would be like. But yeah. Oh my God. I just measured mine and I used almost 2 meters or 77 inches or 6.4 feet or 1,955.8 millimeters of strap. Wow. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, the nice thing is I could come in and put a little bit of wire wrap around that and try and make it all, you know, neat and pretty. But I do kind of like to see some of the wires. Don't get me wrong, I love looking under my 2.4 LDO kit and having all the wire troughs, so it looks really neat, but you have the wire troughs everywhere, right? The nice thing with this build is because it's 2040 on the sides, and you've got that 2020 rail that's spaced out at the very back, it allows you to run all your wires along the perimeter underneath and not have this spaghetti going all the way through. So it's really, you know, like power coming in from the ends, and by moving the board to the back, I'm just bringing wires out right behind that motor mount. So there's not a lot of wires visible, which I think will make it look somewhat nice, I'm hoping. What a beast. Wait, what are we talking about? I'm talking about the wiring on this printer right now. So I just wired in the bed and the bed thermistor. So the only thing I need to do now is run the actual tool head cable and the beacon cable, which means now I need to find those. Here's the beacon box. So, hey, look, there's a beacon USB cable. So there's one cable, and then the other one I need to look for. God, I really, really need to clean up. Really need to clean up. I'm starting to spread everything all over the place again. Oof. Give me just a second, folks. This is really going to start messing with me because I've got stuff everywhere. So this is this, which kind of sits with that. Yep. Hex, which will go downstairs. This goes back there. This goes on top of that. This is excess wires that will get tossed over into the bin, or truly the bin, one of the two. For now, they're going to go right there. This is what I was looking for the VHB tape. I don't think I do any VHB tape for the enclosure, but we're not going to like take this too far right now. I think we're done with this wiring stuff, so we'll move this back up and get it out of the way. Fan off spacers, fans. What am I looking for? We've got this umbilical. Where's my box for the LDO board? Oh, right here where it can bite me. We will have some other wiring to do, and that is because we've got RGBs to do, but that's a later thing. We'll basically put a strip up on each side. We'll route a wire over to a three-way and then bring the wire down and underneath. That'll be easy enough to wire up after the fact. There's that. So we've got our two different cables. That might actually be more of a straight shot than I was anticipating. So this cable comes in here on the top. And we'll connect it with the little clip. Like that. And what I wanted to do is kind of a little over under. Do a little S shape like that. But I'm looking at what I have left for cable here, and that's barely going to get me under the deck panel. So we literally may have to rethink the positioning of the power board, because what we want to do is move this all the way over to one side and see what that's going to do to our overall length, because we don't want this really high, but we don't want it taut either, right? We're going to be looking kind of like that. We'll have our beacon cable as well that's going to come up here. Plug into the beacon. Like so. This is going to come up right behind the fans and join in with this other cable. We'll have a way of zip tying this together right here. So I really want to do this, but we could just circumvent this piece right here altogether, bring this right up, start zip tying these together or putting them in a cable sleeve, bring it down the back, and that actually might give us the additional length we need at the bottom. Cable sleeve. Just bought cable sleeve. Where's cable sleeve? Where did we put the cable sleeve? By cable sleeve too, I am talking about my split loom cable sleeve. I should have it somewhere around here. No and no. This is the extrusion filler stuff. Alrighty. I have cable sleeving. I have no idea where my cable sleeving is. So for now, we'll do some zip ties, zip tie it together, and we'll swap over. Why did my camera go to sleep? Sorry about that. I don't know why that did. So what we're going to do is these are kind of thin. I don't have my bigger ones right up here, so bear with me. I'm going to run down and grab my bigger zip ties because we'll need it for doing the cables, and I will be right back. All right, so a little bit thicker on the zip tie cables here. I'm going to kind of zip tie these together at the plastic joint up here. And then I will go ahead and try and bring these together right back here, zip tie them in place, and drop them down. And once again, we're just trying to make sure that our cables are roughly the same length. We'll be able to put some cable split loom on it to make things look nice. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and put my zip ties on here. Once again, we've got these, and then we've got the ones that we put in place all the way down the rear spine here. And then we'll be able to route our wires down through the deck panel, and well, through the back here, and be able to make our connections as necessary. I'm trying to do what I can to keep these as, I'll say, tight as possible from this point all the way down, because once again, I'm going to have cable length issues, and I may have to reposition the USB adapter piece for the LDO motors, or for the orbital tool board, just because we're not going to have enough cable length to make it over to where I put it. So by trying to keep this going straight down as much as possible, that'll give me the most length underneath the deck to work with. And boom, just like that. Cut some of these zip ties. Sorry for the glare off my head, folks. Okay. There we go. We've got our umbilical wiring. We can probably throw one or two on here just to keep these two together until we put cable sleeving on it. I'm not going to like crank these down. We're just trying to keep our cables snug and close together as possible. And paying attention to the fact that we're going to have a top panel on here. So the head is facing down here. So if it's going to rub, it's going to be on, you know, on the outer edge, and we're not going to catch a snipped off piece that's going to scratch up the top of the build plate. Once again, if we aren't using this, I may get in there and take that screw out and just pop this off and pull it out of the way. But for now, we will need to look at that under deck wiring and see where we're at. So this right here is the length of our cable, and you'll notice that our board is way over here. I might just be able to get it. I might have to peel this up and move it this way a little bit more. And then this cable, which is for the USB for the beacon, needs to plug in right here. So which way is that going? That is going to go in like this. And what we can do is, you kind of see how that's laying, is I can just put a couple of zip ties right there, zip tie these two right here, and now it's relatively out of the way. Let me turn this around so you can see what I'm doing. So this is the USB for the beacon. We have that plugged in. I'm going to bring this right underneath here, and I'll be able to take a zip tie like I did here for this wire, go around there and maybe here, and that'll hold it nice and tight along that edge. We can fold this over, do a zip tie or two right there, and now that keeps this wire in this little gap right here and make it easier to quote unquote hide it from view, while keeping everything with a nice bend so we're not having to deal with over constrained wire bends and breaking wires and stuff. It goes there. I'll come here. Those two cut off. And there we go. So that piece is done. Now we still have to worry about our connection right here. It's not, I don't think that's going to make it over. It might. Let me put this on the side so I can see that connector easier. And which way does this go? Locking clip that way. Yeah, that's going to be a little tight, so I'm going to need to pop this up and move it down a little bit on the DIN rail. Hopefully I can pop this up. Feel it getting loose, but it's... Come on, almost there. There we go. Of course, the tape came off the bottom of the printed part. What I'm going to do is try and get all my cables in, and then we'll move it as necessary once the cables are in. Alrighty. So at this point, we technically have everything wired up. Yes, we technically have everything wired up. Should we put the bottom panel on before we turn it on, or should we just turn it on? Hey, Double Taco, how's it going? You can run an EBB36 or an EBB42 as a USB toolhead board. What you do is you run a USB cable up to the toolhead board, but you also need to run the 24 volt and ground up to the toolhead board. So you're going to have to run the 24 volt and ground to the CAN bus connector. You don't need the other two wires, just the power wires. You want to go 18 gauge FEP preferably, but if it's an umbilical you can use silicone, but 18 gauge wire for that power run, right? And then run a USB cable up, and you're going to have to reflash your board because it's going to come, yeah, we don't need no stinking panel, yeah. It's going to come pre-flashed for CAN. So you will have to reflash it to run it as USB. Okay. So what are we going to need? We're going to need a power plug. We got one of those here. And I really want to set this up. So we'll set this up right. We'll do one more sanity check. We've got on the wire, all my wires are there. We've got ground, load, signal, both USB cables. Yeah, I think we're good. So let's set this down, and I'll turn it around like so. I do have a nozzle. We'll plug this in. And down is off, up is going to be on. And see about pulling this over some. Make it so I don't kill myself, but see if I can't pull that back some more. Okay, you guys can see the printer mostly. Now let me see what I can do here. All right. Because I really don't want to cover the fan up, but I do need to do some stuff. How am I going to do this? You know what? At the angle you've got, you're not going to be able to see it anyhow. But let me see if I can't, because it can't be directly on the tool head because I'm going to apply heat to it. But I also don't want to be right on the nozzle because, well, we're going to nozzle probe. Let me see if I can do something like that. See if we don't set anything on fire. Okay. Full send on the bottom panel, assert dominance, believe your wiring is all correct. Yep, Double Taco. Yep. I can agree with either method. Get our build plate on here. I don't actually have anything on the back as a guide on this. Wonder if I can figure out a guide for that later. All right. On the count of 3, get ready to clip it in case this thing catches on fire and I have to go running out of here because we set the whole studio on fire. 3, 2, 1, power on. Okay, we've got power on the board. We've got lights on up here, lights on the orbital board. So, well, we got pretty lights. Don't know about the beacon. The beacon light may be at the top of the board. If so, I'm not going to see it. Or it won't. Actually, the beacon light won't come on until we get close to a metal surface. But we've got our wireless light on. We've got our light on for our gigabit Ethernet. We've got the board light on over there. Oofda. You know what? Did I ever... Yeah. Let me pull that jumper. I might have to reboot it because I just realized I had the 5-volt jumper still on. We'll see if we need to reboot. Oh. And well, the good news is the board is up and running. So yeah, no boom, Chewy, no boom. Let me go to this shot, which is, hey, that's great. Let me add. That, only we'll pull that down here. So we've got our web interface. Printer is not ready. I can understand that. We have a couple of things that probably need to be updated. We'll update that stuff here in a second. And we're going to need to do a little bit of keyboard work because I know the config is not correct, and we're going to have to do a couple of things on the config. So let me grab my seat so I can come over here and sit down. Bring the keyboard over here. See how much stuff I can knock off. So do the lights signify red equals dead? God, I hope not. So this one is telling me that there's no filament in there. Once filament gets added, it will switch to a different color, I think blue, and load. This one is probably telling me it can't talk and it's taken an error because once again, when I brought this up, I still had the 5-volt connector on, so it would have powered the board from 5-volt. So I'm going to shut it off and turn it back on. We'll give it another couple of seconds here. Got a little bit bigger for you guys. There we go. So yeah, a few things need to get updated. Moonraker, Klipper, we'll call that a point release. So yeah, we'll go ahead and update this stuff. And we're going to need to do a putty session. So let me get putty going. And we're going to go with BQ, let's just, yeah, BQ at bigtreetech-cb2.local. And the password for BQ is BQ. Oh, that's not going to work, is it? Nope. Let's try that again. Because we're using pi at bigtreetech-cb2.local. Raspberry. And that got us in. Good. So we're doing these updates. It's still not going to be able to get there because we need to get our, we've got the MCU, but we need to go ahead and get the information for the beacon and for the toolhead board, right? So let me go full display here. We'll kind of go the other way around here. So we've got our display up here. I want to do a LSUSB. Sees a lot of things. That's good. I see a beacon and I see a second stem board, so that's good. Now we're going to do ls/device/serial/by ID. And we get three things. So we've got the beacon here, so we're going to grab that, copy that, and our beacon setup is going to be in the printer.config. We'll scroll over here on this side down to the beacon section. And you'll see we've got the serial information here. So we're going to come back to that. Do a Control V to paste. And there's our beacon information. Now the Nighthawk board, or excuse me, not the Nighthawk, the Orbital board, if I scroll down here to the bottom, you'll see all the way down here at the bottom is include orbital tool, orbital 02 or O2.cfg. You put that as the last line because it reads the config in order. So we have most of our includes at the top of the file. So it reads all those first. Then it reads everything about the CB, or excuse me, in this case, the Manta M8P. And then the Orbital is going to overwrite things like the extruder pins and stuff like that. And so that's what we're going to need. Now, while we're in here, one thing that, or a couple of things that we want to look at, just sanity check wise, I'm going to scroll all the way back up here at the top. And we have our resonance tester information. This is the beacon. All right. We have a resonance tester for the beacon. We have a resonance tester on the Orbital 2. So we can do one or the other. I don't think we can configure both. So we're configured for the beacon. Our X motor, once again, is motor 1. That is correct. The Y motor is motor 7. So that is correct. We have changed this to motor 7's pins. Then yeah, so this is configured the same way we were before on the old board. I did go ahead and take the entire extruder stuff out because we're doing it in the Orbital config. The filament switch sensor, runout sensor, I pulled that out as well. I think... Yeah, because I think that's, because it's connected to the orbital, that's going to be on the orbital versus on the board, so that's fine. Heater bed, we've got that plugged in to TB port. What I don't have configured here is the thermistors for the motors. Oh, actually I do. I did set that up. The Kraken left and Kraken right. So we've got those set up. We've got our Z-Safe home in the middle of the bed. We've got the Z-Tilt. So really what we need to do is set up for our beacon. We can save this. Don't restart just yet. We're going to save it. And we need to go into the Orbital 02 config. Okay. And we're going to look through here real fast. So here's our extruder. We've got the step pin, the direction pin, enable pin, micro steps, rotation distance. All this is set here. Oh, what was I looking for? Our serial port up here. We need to set this up. There's something there, but I don't think that's going to be right. So one of these is the lower board or the Manta. The other one's going to be this one. It looks like this is going to be a STEM 32 F042. That makes it easy. So we'll grab this one right here. Copy that. And we'll overwrite that there. Now we'll do a save restart. And hopefully it should be able to talk to all the MCUs now. Hopefully. Please. Okay, does not look like it's coming up. I do want to check in here real fast and see if there's anything in here. Macros, filament sense button, filament unload. Should be good. So we're still not coming up. Take a look at our printer config, and I just want to double check this. STEM32 G0B1XX. Ah. So somehow between going, yeah, that's a different board there. So that's why it's not talking to the MCU. Interesting. We'll grab that. We'll replace that there with the correct information. Hit save and restart. I wonder if that was just from running it 5 volt on the bench versus now. Took an MCU protocol error. Okay, so Klipper version is dirty. MCUs which need to be updated. Pretty much all of them. Awesome. Awesome. So basically what this is saying is I updated Klipper on my Raspberry Pi, and it's now out of sync with everything. And we're going to have to update the firmware on everything now. Sweet. Well, good times. Good times. Get rid of that stuff. Beacon. Trying to think where I'm going to go first. Let's do the MCU first. The pinout. I don't think I have both user manuals up, right? No. I'll have to come down here and get the Klipper config set up for this. And reflash the board, even though we did it beforehand. Now, I could probably go into Kaya and roll back the Klipper update, but it's just going to be easy enough to go through and update everything and bring it up to date. Hey, that looks familiar. Pile the firmware. That's what we're going to need to do. Okay, so CD Klipper. I'm going to make clean to start with. Make menu config. Let's see, we've got enable extra, STEM32, T0B1, 8 kilobit, 8 megahertz, PA1112. Yep, we're good. We'll be good to go. Now, what I want to do real fast before I forget is this said dirty. I don't know why it shows up as dirty there, but anyhow, we're good. So let's do a make. And while that's doing its thing, we'll come back over here. Update using DFU. The MCU Klipper device ID can be found. We can input make flash device, blah, 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 to update firmware, note, replace dev serial with the actual found in the previous step. So we can do that. And once this is done, we'll make sure that we get that copied over again, or actually what we can do is we'll semi-cheat a bit. You won't let me grab that? That sucks. Okay, so we're going to make flash underscore device equals slash dev slash serial slash by hyphen ID slash, and we're going to come over here and grab that USB Klipper blah blah blah. Raspberry, hey, Down Under Maker, how's it going? So we've got everything wired up, and we set up, we did an LS USB or ls/dev/serial/by-ID, and we found the IDs for the Orbital toolhead board and our beacon probe, entered those into the configs, and it promptly barked at us that we had a mismatch in our versions for Klipper. So we had updated Klipper on our Pi, and we had an older version on the MCU and an even older version on the Orbital, and we're going to have to update the beacon as well. So, we just did the Big Tree Tech, so that should be good. We'll need to do the Orbital 2 toolhead board, which we have over here on our, whatchamacallit, Adobe. Why didn't I use the devices dialog in the UI? As far as what? For what? I know there's ways of doing it from the UI. I've just always done it in PuTTY. Oh, to get the IDs? I just go into PuTTY because 9 times out of 10, there's two things. One, we built this by putting the minimal image on and then installing everything via Kaya. So I can also go into Kaya and use Kaya to update all of these boards and stuff. But I'm trying to, I'll say, follow a little bit more of the old school process, so to speak. I definitely need to go in and look at all of this stuff to make sure that it's default config, basically the way it's talking about it in here. But for now, I just need to find how do I update the toolboard software. Microcontroller programming. Connect the board to the host. Does have firmware on it. It's pre-flash for Klipper. You must enter DFU mode as follows. Boot and reset buttons. Release the reset, keep the boot down, and then release the boot. So the boot's at the top, the reset's at the bottom. Okay, so we need to put the toolhead board in DFU mode. Good God, there's buttons over here. Oh yeah. Top is boot, bottom is reset. Awesome. Tiny buttons. I have no idea if that actually did anything or not. Oh, grab a couple of zip ties. Don't work either. Ay, 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 ay. I can't tell if I'm getting it pushed down enough or not. Um, okay, so the answer to that is no, I'm not getting it pushed down. Well, that may have worked because the fan just came on. Oh, no, I just reset a board. Okay, so let's try that again. Yeah, I saw a blue light for half a second. Why am I not seeing it go into DFU mode? Dang it. Yeah, well, like I said, it was flashed from the factory, so I didn't need to flash it. Now I'm just trying to I think that did it. DFU mode. There we go. Awesome. Sweet. Oi. Now we're in Klipper. We're going to need to do a I don't have catapult on this, and I agree. It might be a good idea to put clip or catapult on it. Has Esoterical updated his stuff for this board? Dragon Dinghy. That's the first time I ever heard that. And no, I'm not seeing an Orbital toolhead board on there. But yes, I agree. Now would be a good time to install uh, catapult on this. So we'll work on that. Hmm. All right, we now got catapult. Getting into catapult, make menu config, and I'm going to kind of look at the Klipper stuff here because it should be pretty much the same. STEM32, F042. Now it says no bootloader. We're going to assume an 8K bootloader, 8 megahertz crystal, USB on PA1112, 8 kilobit offset. Well, I know you're telling me to follow Esoterical's guide, and what I'm saying is there is no guide on Esoterical for this particular toolhead board. Yeah, correct. So I grabbed the same chip, which is a STEM32 F042, but looking at these, I have zero idea which one of these would use that same chip. Because these, I'm pretty sure, do not. Nope, G0B1. I have never seen this before. That's pretty interesting. The Dragon Dinghy. Yeah, I'm trying to look right now, but unfortunately it's going to be just click and scroll, click and scroll. F072. RPi 2040, right? Yep. I'm using USB. It's a LDO Orbitool tool board, and it's USB. Yeah, that's why I can't find it. That's what I was thinking. In the fan section, change to USB. USB.esoterical. Yeah, it's got the Leviathan, the Nighthawk, and stuff here, but it doesn't have the Orbitool. I think what I'm going to do just for now is we'll just quit. No. Go back to Klipper. Um, make clean. Okay, so low label configuration, STEM32, F042, no bootloader, 8 megahertz. Yeah, I'll go back and do it later. I'm going to try and get this flashed. I know it'll make life easier down the road, but for now I'm going to just try and get this flashed. Of course. The custom USB ID. Where the hell would you do that? Right there, USB IDs. Take that out. USB serial number. Hit enter. Orbital_02. That's a new one. Optional features to reduce code size. Oofda. I don't see anything about bit banging devices. Support external sensor devices. New stuff is coming to allow custom IDs by the user yet, but banging hurts chip performance. Don't enable. Okay. So support reading GPIO, button reading, and trinamic stepper motor driver. Would need an LCD device. I don't want to enable the list 2DW accelerometer anyhow. Measuring fan, tachometer, GPIO pins, that's a yes. Yeah, I think that's kind of where that makes most sense to me. I think we'll be good there. Quit. Yes. Make clean again. Make. And our device was the 0483DF11. We'll double check that with a DFU mode 0483DF11. Yep. So we'll go ahead and make flash and flash the device. Okay, file downloading, submitting leave request, transmitting. DFU util can't detach, restarting USB to switch back to runtime mode, failed to flash, error running, DFU util. Okay, looks like we should be good. Let's do an ls dev serial by ID. We've got the beacon, we've got the STEM32 orbital, and then the main board. So let's grab the orbital data just in case it changed. That's what I wanted to do. We will come back here. Why? Klipper is good here. I think it's the fact that it shows dirty on for the Klipper here. So let's see. See what a refresh will get us here. Crow's Nest update. Nothing on Klipper. We may need to do a reboot. Dirty just means it's for, yeah. So I don't know why it's complaining here about the MCU mismatch, because they are, these two are now the exact same. It would be the beacon stuff. The beacon, I know I didn't go the full way because installed the beacon module, configured Moonraker update. Did that part. Did safety home, stepper Z. Do you have a bed mesh section? I have resonance tester configured. Here to update Beacon Klipper module to the latest version for access to the Excel drivers. All right, I'm going to try and just do this. I'm going to go ahead and do a full reboot on the board. Hey, Martin. Okay, so now we're better. Cannot update MCU config as it shut down, blah, blah, blah. Oh. Why? You work so well on the bench. MCU protocol running an older version of the firmware on the MCUs fixed by recompiling and flashing the firmware. They're current. There, current beacon 110. All right, I have, yeah, beacon surface scanner. It's on the latest version. All right, let's do restart session. Let's just see if forcing a Klipper update will do something. Okay. Back. We also have to reflash again post update. I hope not. What I'm going to try and do is roll back Klipper. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're going to sit here and play Russian roulette with this. Could the update manager channel be dev? Hmm. So what should it be if it's not dev? Like, is it stable, main, master? Um, yeah, main in most situations, yeah. Awesome. So it won't even give me the option of updating now. All right, now we're chasing things. Yeah, looks like stable would be the answer. Okay, so it looks like Klipper's set to pull from master. We'll go ahead and force an update to Klipper and see. Maybe we get lucky. I don't know. All right. Sounds good, Down Under Maker. Thanks for the assist. Okay. All right. I'm sort of thinking at this point that maybe I just need to go through the configuration a bit. So we're going to look at this and see if we need to bounce back and forth. Because I am seeing an error on the, it is also throwing an error down here on the orbital 2. Orbital 2. Let's just kind of look through here and see if there's an issue here. Um, there's the max power piece. I did configure for a PT1000. Okay. ADC temperature. Now I think I have that stuff set. Temperature sensor power. AC temperature, that's set. Okay. But so far, all of that highly recommended to use ferrules. We did. Fan output driver, max power 0.99. Heater hot end fan, cycle time. Hey, Eagle the Dragon. Yep, I will, buddy. Okay. What was the error that we were taking? Orbital 02. Firmware constant. ADC max not found. DC temperature hot P. Yeah, I'll have to look at this. Yeah, something's still not right, folks, but I'll dig through this. We'll keep playing with it and try and figure out. Let me go ahead and find a raid target for this evening. See who's on. Hey, Adam's on, working on a rook, so yeah, let's go on over to Adam. Thanks everybody for being here this evening. Like I said, we've got a physical build. Now we're digging through the issues. And I knew there was going to be issues. That's no big deal. But we're just going to have to try and figure out what's going on here. And it may just require me to re-update all the boards again, like Down Under Maker mentioned. But thank you all for being here tonight. You guys have a great day. And I will see you guys, should see you all Saturday morning. I'm going to possibly stream for a little bit. I may even drive down to Ecovate and stream from there. We'll see. We'll see how things go. So take it easy, everybody, and enjoy. Go with me on a raid over to Adam. Night all. Night, Pete. And for those of you watching this later on YouTube, thank you so much for sticking around. This is the problems that we have with our builds. But thank you all for sticking around. If you like the content that you see, please like and subscribe below. Be sure to check that bell to make sure you get notified of future content. And talking about other content, YouTube's going to be suggesting a new video for you right over here. Thank you so much.